Alright, let's talk about competitive Pokemon battling today. And more importantly, the vast difference between VGC competitive and casual competitive. Because there is a huge difference in power level between the two sides of Pokemon battling. What do I mean by that? Well, how many of you remember the famous quote of Karen of the Elite Four from Gold, Silver, and Crystal? Where she tells you how viewing a Pokemon as strong or weak is only the selfish perception of people, whereas truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. Because as inspirational as that is, let's be honest, that's very hard to do in reality.
Is there more to us than the words we say, the games we play? Can we know that we're not dreaming?
Strong Pokemon. Weak Pokemon. That is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with the Pokemon they love the best. Let me ask you this important question that I'll get back to later in the video. What are your favorite Pokemon? Go ahead, list 6 of them if you want down in the comments below. What are they? Doesn't matter. The real question is, do you think you could compete using those Pokemon? And more importantly, can you actually win with those Pokemon consistently? The reason why I'm asking is because I recently ran a poll asking which side of the competitive format one sits on when it comes to battling, the casual and the VGC. Without going too heavily into what separates the two, VGC is seen as the official competitive format for Pokemon, and casual competitive is more on the easygoing side, where people often use their favorites or Pokemon they like, instead of following the meta of the format. Now, some people who battle say, yes, you can win with your favorites, but often they overlook one important factor. The fact that in order to actually use their favorites, they have to often only use that one favorite on their team, and often have to build their team around that one Pokemon for it to be potentially viable. Now, let me just say this isn't entirely true, and depending on the Pokemon, results will vary, but this is my personal opinion. Let me provide an example with one of my personal favorite Pokemon, Hatterene. Hatterene has always had a special place in my heart after I saw her debut in Sword and Shield. And when it came to competitive battling, Hatterene was always among my go-to picks. But there was a catch. Her abysmal speed stat basically required her to always be used in a Trick Room setting, and this leads to a big problem, since my team is basically going to have to be geared entirely toward Trick Room in order to make Hatterene work. If I don't get the Trick Room up, I basically can't do anything. But that's okay, I've got a solid team, I have multiple ways to get Trick Room up, and I've gotten very good at using Trick Room teams in general. Also, as a side note, I have a lot of Pokemon on my team that I love to use. Primarina, Farigiraf, Hatterene, and even Ursaluna, so I have a ton of fun with my team. So yes, I can use my favorites on the ladder, and I can even reach an extremely high rank on the ladder in a very highly competitive setting. Just as an example, I almost reached top 500 recently using my Trick Room Hatterene team. But what if they weren't my favorites? Let's just say my favorites consisted of Delphox, Meowscarada, Leafeon, Umbreon, Glaceon, Vaporeon, Jolteon, Sylveon, and Ninetales, both Alolan and Cantonian forms. Oh lord, is all I can say. The absolute pain of trying to win with only your favorites is an utter nightmare. I love my Pokemon, trust me, and one of my viewers has a deep emotional attachment to some of their Pokemon, but they were utterly struggling to reach Master Rank, and so asked me if I could get the Master Rank ribbon on their Pokemon. I accepted, and you know what, I even challenged myself to only use these Pokemon, because, it seemed like an interesting challenge at the time. I, won on the ladder using an Alolan Ninetales of theirs, so I thought it was gonna be easy peasy lemon squeezy. But when I used their Pokemon on the ladder, I did not realize the suffering I would endure just trying to find a way to make them work together. I had a few combinations I could do, but these Pokemon were all not what one would consider ideal VGC Pokemon. On top of that, the few synergies they had basically forced me into a play Sun or Run fighting style. And in a meta where Tornadus and Water Urshifu are still popular and still powerful, and a certain Fluttermane exists and sends me flowers every time I set up the sun for them, well, it was not a fun experience. I did manage to fulfill my obligations and my promise and challenge by winning enough times to get all 12 of the team members I was provided their master rank ribbon, but by the end of it, I went from 4,606 at the highest with the viewers Pokemon to ending the run with a rank of 13,219. I basically lost almost 9,000 rank, tied my win-loss ratio at 97 to 97, just trying to get 3 wins on the ladder. I only had to win 3 battles, but I lost so many times just to get those 3 wins. And if I faced a single Trick Room team, which I did, then it was pretty much game over, because I lacked so much utility that other Pokemon could have provided. My viewer really enjoys using their Sun team, but after seeing the struggles I had, let's just pretend that the first team I used using their Pokemon was my original team, using only my favorites. I got 1 win with it, but it was against someone who severely underestimated the team, and who was using a rental team that I was able to read like an open team sheet. And the team I used suffered serious flaws, yet I still want to make the team concept work. So the only way I can make the core concept of the Sun team work is to, change things up. So let's take a look at the team I first ran during that run, which was by far the most successful since it got the first win and only took 1 try, and adjust it so that it can actually tackle the current meta format of VGC. It lacks any priority damage or a way to deal with threats if I am forced under a Trick Room or don't have Tailwind. I'm going to have to drop Sylveon here for a Pokemon that can play in Sun. I need a fast, reliable damage dealer who can hit super hard under almost any condition, who can also use the Sun, like Fluttermane. Now, I need someone who can also operate under the Sun and even support my, at the moment, mostly special attacking focused team. Hey look, Hugh does that perfectly. But now I need a team member who can run interference and either reset the Sun or give me advantages in some way. A Pokemon like Tornadus with Prankster, Tailwind, Sunny Day, and even Taunt to stop those pesky Trick Room teams. Alright, now I need a physical attacker who can deal some serious damage and doesn't bring the risk of being blown up in the very Sun I set, and who can run a choice band on. Well, Entei works pretty well, and he has, a priority move in the form of extreme speed. Now, I know that I might need just a little extra damage, because I often fight opponents who survive with just a sliver of health. Who could help me? Oh, I know! Tien Pao! Its ability will ensure I can get the critical damage needed to secure KOs. What happened to all of my favorites? Only Ninetales is there, because I still need a way to set up the Sun automatically. Well, at least one of my favorites is still here, I guess. Speaking of one of my favorites in the example, let's go back to my earlier question. Look at your 6 Pokemon that you, hopefully, posted in the comments. Do you think they're good enough for the current meta of VGC? Or are they just meant for casual battles? Are they capable of fighting in VGC? Or will they only truly shine in the tiers of Smogon? If you wanted to use them, what changes would you have to make so you could win consistently with them? And who would you have to drop in order to bring in more viable team members? And at the end, how many of your favorites are still there? When it comes to VGC, yes, there are strong Pokemon and weak Pokemon. These are not just selfish perceptions. Some Pokemon are just superior for competitive than others. While the truly skilled should try winning with those that they love the most, the truly skilled will prefer to win with those that can guarantee them the best chances at success. Because at the end of the day, which Pokemon would you prefer to risk winning a battle on? A Tailwind and Hurricane from Vivillon? Or Tailwind and Bleakwind Storm from Tornadus? Well, that's all I've got to say on the subject. A vast majority of people lean more into the casual side of competitive over VGC side of competitive, and this got me thinking about other things. But those are for future videos. And now I'm going to ask you all to like the video if you enjoyed it, comment if you have anything to say about the discussion, and finally, smash that subscribe button to make Iono go crazy.
When you've reached the point where you can't go on, just come to me, you'll be safe from harm. If you trust in me, then I'll trust in you. There's nothing more that I need to do. If you put your hands in front of mine, we'll be shining through one at a time. Just understand you